Good morning. Good morning, all. Could you please indicate if you can see and hear me clearly?
Morning. Yeah, we can see you and can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's 11 o'clock and we're going to start on time. Welcome, everyone. I can see so far we have about 23 participants with us, and there are a lot more people coming on board. Thank you for joining us today. So I'm just going to say a few words and get the ball rolling. So welcome to the webinar, Unlocking the Power of Hybrid Cloud Observability, presented by ATS Management in partnership with IT News Africa. In today's rapidly evolving digital landscape, organizations are turning to hybrid cloud environments with their scalability, flexibility, and cost optimization benefits. To fully leverage the potential of these complex infrastructures, a deep understanding of observability is essential. It ensures efficient operations and seamless performance. We are honored to have a distinguished panel of speakers with us today. Joining us are Glenn Lazarus, CEO of ATS Network Management, Ali Dijeli, Senior Engineer at SolarWinds Southern Europe and Africa, and Pranil Padiachi, CTO of ATS Network Management. During this enlightening session, our speakers will shed light on common implementation pitfalls that hinder organizations from fully capitalizing on the benefits of observability. By identifying and addressing these obstacles, you will acquire valuable knowledge and practical guidance to successfully implement hybrid cloud observability within your IT infrastructure. An integral part of this webinar is the interactive Q&A session that will follow the presentations. We encourage your active participation as it offers a unique opportunity to engage directly with our speakers, to seek clarification and explore topics that resonate with you. So on behalf of ATS Network Management and IT News Africa, we express our sincere gratitude for your presence today, and we're confident that this webinar will expand your understanding of hybrid cloud observability, providing valuable insights and strategies to enhance your knowledge and capabilities in managing complex hybrid cloud environments. Thank you. So before we get started, before I hand over to Glenn, just a few house rules. All participants will be muted by default. If you want to ask a question, please use the chat function and indicate your company and job title. Note that the webinar will be recorded and it will be shared with attendees at a later date. In case of an urgent technical request, please use the chat function for technical support. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. You can submit your questions at any time using the chat function. And lastly, please look out for a post-webinar survey, which you will receive by email shortly after this session. Thank you for your attention and cooperation. I hope you enjoy the webinar and learned something new today. So that's it from me. Once again, my name is Abi Wakama from IT News Africa, and I'd like to hand over to our first presenter, and that's Glenn Lazarus from ATS Network Management. Over to you, Glenn.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for that great introduction. It's still quite early, so I'm looking forward to an exciting session with you guys today. Are you seeing my screen? Great.
Yes, we can.
So excellent. So I think what's key to me is, we're doing a lot of these things online. It's vital that we do a lot more interaction. I don't want this to be just me doing a lot of talking. I look forward to you guys getting involved, sharing ideas, lots of questions. And I think today, fundamentally, we're speaking about a topic that is hotly debated. Observability has become one of the major trends in our industry today. And we've seen it growing, and we've seen people talking about it, and we've seen a lot of vendors, a lot of hype. But I think today we're going to see some of what's real live and the capabilities of what we can provide as a phenomenal solution that gives you enterprise visibility on steroids. So what is the difference between the traditional network monitoring and observability? For me, I think it's kind of like a maybe like my normal watch that I wear every day. Network monitoring allows me to set the alarm, and in the morning it wakes me up knowing that I've got to head off to the office and take that trip. But is that enough? To me, observability is more like looking at the stars through a telescope, where you can see the entire system. You can see all the patterns, you can see the anomalies, and you can see much more detail. But if I go back to my example of what I was referring to about my watch, perhaps if I had an intelligent watch that not only set the alarm, and yes, once I wake up, I hit the snooze because I just need a few extra more minutes, and hit it again to snooze a bit longer. But if this watch knows exactly what my daily plan is and where I'm going and how I'm trying to get there, possibly it could make a lot of decisions for me, but there's no intelligence built into it. What am I referring to? For example, I wake up in the morning. First of all, my coffee's got to be ready. I've got to get that coffee straight away just to get me going. Then I've got to wake the kids. I know that I've got an appointment at 9 o'clock. I've got to get to that appointment, and I've got to get through the traffic and everything that goes with it. But if there's intelligence, if my watch was linked to my diary was linked to my maps were intelligent, knowing that I've got to go past school and drop the kids off on the way. And eventually, when I get to the destination, if I'm going to my office, I've got to get through security. And security takes time as well. Instead of waking me at 5:30 to get to the office because I think there's going to be traffic, if it's real time and it has artificial intelligence built into it, it might only need to wake me a little bit later. And I can navigate my route with ease. Otherwise, I'm stick to the static kind of old style monitoring and alerting, where it says you started this time, it's looking at specific issues, and that's the way you get to your destination. And that's kind of the difference to me between monitoring and observability. Observability has the intelligence to simplify our routes and make sure that we're getting clear, instant visibility of what we need to do. But across both of these, whether we're talking about network monitoring or we're talking about observability, we need to have complete visibility across the enterprise. We need to have a looking glass that shows us absolutely everything. Now, if we look at the limitations of network monitoring, specifically, it's like the situation where I'm in a specific context only. I only see what I can. And I have a lot of inadequate alerts. And maybe, Ali, you've been in this for a long time. I know that often when I'm talking to end users and to different IT professionals, what they tend to do is have a little folder which is called alerts in their mailbox. You have something similar like that, Ali?
Yes, usually we have. Good morning, everyone, by the way. Yeah, definitely, this use case happens a lot on a lot of customers' nodes, if I could say. Because yes, of course, when we monitor the network, so we have to deal with, on one side, different tools, I mean, and another side, we have to deal with a lot of data, a lot of alerts, and also we have the network team, which is involved in a lot of issues, if I could say, and we have a lot of other teams, entering that team, because we could have different type of issues on an infrastructure, on the virtualization layer, application layer, whatever, and mostly the issues is like the finishes on the network team side, because it's complicated for a network team to answer with eloquence and just say, hey, the problem is not situated on my side. Just look at yours. So this happens a lot.
So that's kind of like the finger pointing, right? Everybody's pointing fingers at each other. It's not my problem. It's not the network. It's always something else. And
yeah,
I think kind of what we're trying to get to is move away from the limitation of network monitoring, which is just that finger pointing, and get to observability where we can actually see that there's interaction and it becomes a lot more efficient in terms of the visibility and everything that we have. And for a long time, we've seen that organizations or specific people have their little folder in the inbox and all the alerts. There's so many alerts that they'll end up going into this alert box and forgetting about them. And the other thing that happens in the network management arena is we find that there are blind spots. We're only looking at specific things. And because of that, we tend to overlook certain things. So just want to check, you can still see my screen, my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what we know is that the landscape is transforming quickly and very, 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 very quick. We almost had to pivot so quickly over the last couple of years. But what we see is that there's so many different components today in our platforms. We have things like, previously we had on-prem, now we have on-prem, we have private cloud, we have hybrid environments, we have public cloud, we have all these different components. We have branch networks, which have so many different connections, so many different types of applications, different databases, and all of these create different scenarios that need to be managed in a central environment. And the more we work in these environments, the more we need to make sure that we're making them more efficient. So some of the common problems that we find and challenges we find are that, first of all, some organizations have in excess of 8 different tools to view their enterprise. So they have tool sprawl across the enterprise. Different people and different departments within the IT pros are monitoring different screens and are monitoring different tools to make sure that their systems are running efficiently. And this leads to a lot of issues because there's a lot of complexity, but we don't always alert efficiently. And some of the alerts need to be within a different department. So we need to make sure that the time to resolve these issues is becoming faster and faster, and make sure that we have better visibility and that we have so many business services distributed across not only the on-prem, but the cloud environments and pure cloud. And we need to make sure that we have the ability to monitor, manage, and real-time solve these problems as quickly as possible. Too many alerts means that everybody is ignoring them. But the thing that we don't want is we do not want our end users to be our first alerting tool. And we need to be able to be a lot more predictive. We need to be able to understand and be proactive as to what's going on in our environments. And at the same time, we need to make sure that we manage our SLAs, that we give service delivery. We need to make sure that these are running efficiently, and we need to make sure that they are in with cost and within the budget that we're talking about. So primarily, the key difference between what we're focusing on now is the difference between monitoring and the foundations of observability. Now, monitoring effectively was what's happening in my environment. Is my system working? Alerting and detecting problems within those patterns. Observability is a much more proactive approach to what we do. It explains why something is happening and provides actionable insights so that I can manage the system, collecting these real-time data and see how my system is running and managing every aspect of it. Kind of like, I know there are a couple of accounting guys or technology officers in the group today. Kind of like monitoring is more like an accounting system. It tells me what happened yesterday or what's happened up to now. It doesn't show me what's going to be happening in the future. So we are now looking at observability, which is changing that vision of where we've come from. So what are the key components relating to observability? Number one, we log all the records of the systems and the events that are taking place. And we make sure that we have anomaly detection, because this is essential for troubleshooting. A lot more efficient. We need to make sure that our metrics are being captured and track performance of our systems across time, historically, and predicting where we're going to be going in the future. We have traces, and these traces provide detailed records of the flow within our systems from every aspect of it. And then obviously the alerting capability, the notifications that are triggered. Notification doesn't mean, like Ali said, it's an SMS or an email or something along those lines. A notification, an alert, can be a lot more intelligent. It can take over and look at, did this alert occur before? How did we resolve it? And what action steps were taken? And automatically, maybe a script needs to run. These things can happen in the background without having to have human intervention, making systems much faster and much more efficient. So it's a much more dynamic approach, facilitating dynamic monitoring, helping network professionals and application professionals and our executive team formulate very effective and quick responses to changing scenarios. Observability collects all the data from every aspect of your environment. It's not siloed. It's bringing everything together and making sure that our departments and our different silos, our different professionals can work together in a unified team. So what are the benefits of observability? Root cause analysis, faster and easier to reduce mean time to repair, because that's the core, isn't it? Making sure that we are able to respond and resolve problems quicker, possibly even making sure that we give better customer experience, not waiting for the customer to tell us that they're having issues or that there is some kind of service degradation. We need to be in control all the time. We need to have that instant visibility. We need to see predictively what's going on in our environments, building that collaboration between the different departments. Observability also enhances resilience. It makes sure that we can pivot and we can turn and reduce the amount of downtime, increasing service time and productivity. But at the same time, a core fundamental of observability is to bring in better security and make sure you have a platform where you can see everything in one great view of the enterprise. So observability is essential for enterprise management today. Modern enterprises are increasingly complex. They involve many different layers and components across the entire environment, with multiple data centers on-prem, in the cloud, and hybrid cloud and private cloud. But also, as technology is being enhanced all the time, we expect faster speeds. We expect that we can do our work more efficiently and more quickly. But at the same time, we need complete reliability to make sure that our systems are running 24/7 and available 24/7. Today, there's no downtime. Today, we are transacting all the time. So, looking at our platform, the SolarWinds Observability and Hybrid Cloud Observability Platform is one of the industry's leading unified monitoring and observability solution, providing a complete enterprise visibility that looks at every aspect of the environment, from the user environment, the network and infrastructure, the application and cloud services, private cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, bringing in our database components as well, because we all know that databases have grown dramatically in the last few years. We're collecting so much data, but efficiencies, we need to make sure that our efficiencies are being built in and tracked, and that all of this comes through into our central dashboard as well. Security and compliance, we need to make sure that all of that is tracked. We need to also look at the application side. Applications were built many years ago, and some of them migrated into different environments. We also have apps that are running, but we need to make sure that when we deploy these solutions, we are able to make sure that they run efficiently all the time. But this solution that we're talking about also needs to be a single pane of glass, a vision that everybody within our different silos, across our different platforms, and within our technical resources, within our organizations, have visibility of all of this. At the same time, the solution needs to be ubiquitous. In other words, it needs to ensure that we're not specifically working with only some vendors. It needs to be agnostic across the platform. So it doesn't matter what flavor of equipment you're running. We can pull all the data into the solution, making sure that when you have visibility, it shows you everything from, it doesn't matter what brand, whether you're running Cisco or HP or Dell or F5, or you're using Kubernetes and you're running different databases. All of this can collate into one central environment where we have outstanding visibility and a single pane of glass to fuel innovation and make sure that we deliver superior digital experience for our end users and maximizing our agility and operational efficiencies while minimizing the cost. We also know that costs are spiraling. We need to make sure that we can keep things efficient. And we know that we also have a shortage of technical skills. So we need to be aware of that and make sure that our tools provide that. I stumbled across an interesting fact yesterday, which I was really threw me. This is some facts put out by Forbes. Forbes reckoned that 1/3 of all cloud migrations fail outright. This is crazy. And why do they fail? Well, predominantly because there's been a very quick decision to move into the cloud, and then the systems are not running efficiently. 25% of organizations meet their migration deadlines. 90% of CIOs have experienced failed or disrupted cloud based on data migration projects. So they've either become much more expensive, which often happens, but also we tend to extend the goalpost move, and time-wise, we tend to have a problem because we're constantly playing the catch-up game. So I think the key behind SolarWinds observability is the fact that we have the ability to take into account on-prem, cloud, hybrid cloud, and look at the visibility across the entire stack. So whether it is network infrastructure, security and compliance, application performance, database performance, including also things like service desk integration. We have complete service desk integration as well. And it's not only for those organizations that are part of the hybrid environment. In other words, people running hybrid or on-prem and a mix of cloud-based platform, but also we have solutions for native cloud platforms as well. Because today, as much as if we're running pure cloud, we think that everything is running efficiently, and we have service providers who do everything for us. But the truth is, everybody needs to be accountable. We need to make sure that month end, we see our SLAs, we know exactly what each service provider is giving us and how efficiently these systems are running. And without a great observability platform, it's very difficult to manage these environments. The power of observability is the power to configure, observe, analyze, predict, act, and remediate while making sure our systems are running efficiently 24/7. That to me is the essence of what we need to provide today. I'm now going to hand over to Ali, who's going to take us through a deep dive into some of these points that we've touched on and show us a little of the functionality that we can touch on in a short period of time. I know Ali was pushing me to keep my time short because he's got a lot to show us. Ali, over to you.
Thank you, Glenn. And yes, you said a lot of interesting things that sure, and I want to show to the audience how it looks like in reality. Just sharing my screen. Could you just confirm to me that you see it?
Yep, we can see it.
Right.
Got it.
So let's go on the use cases, and I will just talk about what you already explained. First use case, you talk about the migration to the cloud. And here I'm providing just an example about a customer, for example, having his on-prem infrastructure with his routers, switches, arrays, whatever, application, etc. And that customer is moving to the cloud. He's migrating, isn't it? So on his infrastructure, he's using Hyper-V for virtualization. As a first step to the cloud, he's using Office 365. The migration to Office to Microsoft Azure is on the way, and he's trying to migrate his Azure Active Directory. So how the platform, the SolarWinds platform, could help him? Let me show you that directly on the platform. So for that customer, for example, the first thing is to understand the big picture, to have the big picture about his infrastructure. So he has an on-prem infrastructure, cloud infrastructure. How are they connected between them? This is what we are seeing here on the middle of the screen. So for example, here we have the customer one router. This one router is monitored. We are feeding the platform with all its metrics, all its events, where we could monitor it, configuration change, etc. Same for that core switch, distribution switch here. And you could see here, we have another type of element. This is the customer Hyper-V. And on this Hyper-V, he does have several machines. And we are showing here on the map only one server using that array. This is a storage array configured on one specific LAN, whatever. So the most important thing to understand here is that the customer could have a big picture about his infrastructure. Of course, regarding the cloud resources, I talk about the use of the Office 365. This Office 365, okay, we do have the bullet here on the map, but this kind of resources could be also observed. So we know what's happening on them. We know the impact of the network on the use of the application also, etc., so on and so forth. So one of the information, for example, regarding the KPIs or the metrics of that application, cloud application, are here listed here. So we are observing continuously, observing the applications. And we could see the other elements, Azure Active Directory. How is it connected with the on-prem Active Directory, which is here? Okay. And I won't explain everything regarding that customer, but I think you understood it. Now, one of the elements, when we use the cloud applications, SaaS applications, and it's working, we're having issues with the use of that application. One of the questions, and we talk, Glenn, when you asked me the question about the network team, hey, I could have a ticket telling, hey, I'm using Teams and it's not working fine. It's cutting, it's not good. The quality is bad. So we could answer to this question only by one observability features, which is that one. We could analyze the path from the LAN of the customer to the application pool. And here, just following the colors, I could see here that we are having some issues, network issues. And regarding that network issues are situated out of my network. This is very interesting. So what you are seeing here is just all the paths, the network path that we are passing through to get to our application here on the final end. And we could detect directly where the network issue is situated and what is it. So here, for example, we have a big latency between these two routers, and the two routers are not situated or installed on the customer infrastructure, but this is Microsoft routers. Also, if I come back to that customer, I said that this customer is having an Hyper-V, okay? And on this Hyper-V, the customer has a lot of VMs. And behind that VMs, the customer could have a lot of applications. One of the applications is SharePoint here and so on. So just if I click on this Hyper-V, I want to deep dive to understand what's happening on the deep dive. This is the essence of the observability. The observability could give you the big picture about the Hyper-V of that customer. So if I go here and see this map, I see that I'm having several layers So if I go here on this layer, host layer, I could know directly just by looking on that map what server I do have on that host, what applications are hosted on that servers, hosted on my host, and what my host is using in terms of resources, data store, etc. We have the answer here. So this feature and this technology is called AppStack with the observability. And we could have this view regarding all the elements that we could have on our infrastructure, because it's not about monitoring, as Glenn explained, but it's about observability. And the observability, we need to know, we need to have all the elements regarding not only one port on my infrastructure, but the whole infrastructure. So we're not interested into, one piece of the puzzle game, but we are interested about the whole picture. And regarding, let's focus on that Hyper-V host here of that customer. We provide all of the status of the Hyper-V. Yes, the use of course, CPU, memory. This is, about it. But more than that, what the infrastructure could provide a whole audit of the VMs on this Hyper-V host server. So it could tell to the customer, hey, this is the list of your VMs. And on your regarding your VMs, this is the list of the VMs that are underlocated with the vCPUs, overlocated vCPUs. This is the recommendations. If you want to apply them, you could automate this. And also, and Glenn explained this, and I liked it when he talked about it. Again, we need the big picture. We need everything. So when we have issues on the network or on the infrastructure, and we need to troubleshoot it and detect it. So regarding the detection, we do have, this use case, alert noise. This is pretty annoying, isn't it? So we could have a lot of elements. We could watch the infrastructure to collect a lot of information regarding the infrastructure, but we could be lost with all the noise of the alerting that we could have on it. This is why the Observability Platform will monitor the alerts and provide what we call the alert clusters. This is about alert stack. So what is it? What you are seeing here on the screen are a number of clusters. What's a cluster? It's very simple to understand, It's just that the platform will continually, as I said, monitor the alerts and correlate all the problems that happen at the same time on the related devices. So for example, let's pick up this example. So if I click here, I just clicked before on it. So we have the details regarding that cluster, and that cluster is notifying me about some issues happening on my Active Directory. So basically what's happening, the platform correlated several elements here. And the issues regarding that element, CPU, server, application, whatever, on the cluster, all happen at the same time. And then you have all the stack regarding the alerting. So if I click here, for example, this is what I did, the platform will push to you a map, because it's pretty easier to read a map than the alert details as stored, isn't it? So we're having all the elements, that the platform pushed on the cluster here, on the alert cluster. And we know what happened first in terms of issues before that the problem has impacted another elements on my infrastructure. And this is generated by, of course, an intelligence. So an AI here on the platform.
Ali, one of the things that strikes me is the fact that, what you mentioned there about the maps and the visibility. Very few of us techs tend to read the manual. And when you display it so simply and easily, you can drill down so quickly and you have instant visibility of what's going on. It's not about reading what's going on. It's there, it's in your face. You can't miss it, and you can deep dive into it.
Definitely, and this is the essence of the thing. So because having the data, and I could say metadata, is something, but exploiting it is another challenge. And this is the challenge that we are reliving. We are trying to push the right information to the customer in the right moment to be able to resolve the issue in the right moment also. And this is what is about it. The promise is to provide the information to the support team, to let them understand the root cause of a problem, and also to detect the issue before it happens, or in the right moment, before that the tickets start to go on the ITSM platform. And this is very interesting to have all the big picture, of course, with a map, and also all the details regarding what happened really on the devices and the elements that are monitored. And because I'm still talking about that kind of thing, because observability, as I said, is a big picture. If I provide another example, maybe this one is more easy to understand. I came back to a map example. So for this one, this is for another customer, a map of another customer. And what is interesting to understand is that on the observability map, we need to have all the picture regarding the infrastructure. So here, the example is that we have a router. You said it. We are vendor agnostic. This is a Cisco router. This is the one router. We have a Juniper here. This is a core switch. And on this switch, we do have an ESXi in this example. This is a VMware hypervisor. And under this hypervisor, we have our servers, virtual servers. This is about Windows 2019 server. And behind that server, we have applications, and the application that I have on this server, for example, I do have a DNS server, Active Directory server, and we do have all the big picture about the infrastructure. This is just another example. We could provide more information as I showed on the first one also. Let's come back here on that graphs, and this is pretty interesting also, because I will show you. This is a panel that's a support team or NOC team could use to understand, to troubleshoot, to have a visibility regarding the elements on the infrastructure. So this is not a map, but graphs. What does it mean? So I worked on that one just before starting this session. So on that, the name of the application is PerfStack, the PerfStack view. I pushed several information to understand what's happening on my infrastructure regarding a specific use case. The use case is, wow, I have a server. This is it. This is the average response time of my server. This server is hosting its database, okay? And this server is connected to two switches, distribution switch and a core switch. And I have one router on the top, okay? I do have all the elements, the metric regarding my network elements here. I do have all the logs, the syslogs of my network nodes, the logs of my server. Also, I could have them, all the alerts in the same time. So why I have pushed all of this? To understand and troubleshoot and have ensured to have all the elements I need when I troubleshoot. Let me give you an example. I see here that I have a pick on the response time of my server, okay? It is caused by my switches, by my router. I could check here and check the correlation of the elements between them. If I have an issue on my network side or my server side, is it a human mistake, if I could say, a configuration missing? And the configuration is something that is also observed with observability. If I just select this here, this graph regarding the configuration, I check here on the left, I could see and verify what happened on my switches, at what time, by who, etc. The details are here. So someone has pushed a configuration that maybe exposed an issue on my servers, and I see here that I have a correlation with syslog. We'll see it together in a couple of seconds. So if I click here to check the report, the configuration report, I could know what exactly has done on my equipment. So here the shutdown has been added. By who? By this user on this VTY. This is an SSL session. Also, one of the elements that I need, this is logs, for example. Okay, I could read them directly here. So, okay, and I see that it's correlating with that configuration here. I do have a pick here, let's select it without really leaving this panel. All the syslog, I could read them here. The alerts that happening on my nodes, I could push all the alerts of all the elements that I'm analyzing. So again, we are providing everything, all the elements, all the metrics, all the logs, all the alerts on one panel to let the customers, the NOC teams, the support team has all the needed information when they troubleshoot. Of course, in addition to all the features that I already explained. I think I have to give no. I still have five minutes, isn't it, Glenn?
Yeah, you still got 5 minutes.
Yes, great. Yeah, great. So also, let's deep dive and stay. Yes, I pick it up here. Just another, that switch, one of the customer switches, and also yes, on the standard monitoring when we monitor an equipment. So we monitor the equipment, its interfaces, of course, etc. And this is pretty basic, isn't it? So we do this, of course. We provide all the monitoring needed of monitoring either interfaces, the networks, whatever, the protocols, routing protocols, etc. But here, the point of view, it's an observability point of view. So we need to know what's happening on the switch, all what's happening all around that switch. So for that switch, for example, if I look like its interfaces, and this is what we are seeing here on the middle of the page, all the interfaces, I could know what is connected on them, even if these devices are not observed or monitored in the classic way by my infrastructure. And because it's observability, when I detect something connected on my switch, I need to know to have the details. For example, on that port, 28 ports, I'm detecting this MAC using this IP, using this hostname. And I want to have the details about that MAC. What is it about? Why do I have seen it on my infrastructure? So here I've detected it on that port especially, but I want to have the history. So I could have it, the history regarding all my infrastructure, all my switches. I could have the information regarding that specific MAC. That MAC is using an IP address. And the observability would provide to me the information regarding this detected IP address. And it's telling me here that this IP address detecting on that MAC that I don't know is used and pick it up a subnet that I manage. I'm managing that subnet here, okay? And I'm detecting a conflict on it. And if I click here, because again, it's observability, I started from a switch, I then end up on the IP address analyzing. And here regarding this IP address detected on this MAC, on my switch port, I could have the details because this IP is conflicting. And I could have the details telling me, hey, this MAC is having its IP address from this DHCP server, from this DHCP scope, and it's detected on this port, and it's using this host name. The second one that is using also this IP is a static one, detecting on that port. And I could, even if I want, shut down this port. This is one of the features that are provided by our infrastructure. So hope you got the point, but it's not about silos when I monitor, but everything is connected. The metrics are connected, the elements are connected, the alerts are connected, and everything is provided by an easy way regarding by our dashboarding to make our users have the right information at the right moment to be able to resolve problems and gain time. 45, 11:45. I think I will give time to Pranal to provide us more insights regarding our subject today. And of course, I will be available for any questions by the end of the session.
Great stuff, Ali. Really enjoyed the demo. Thanks for that. I normally do the demos. I think I can learn a thing or two from you.
Thank you, La.
Morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. My name is Pranil Padiachi. I'm the CEO at ATS Network Management. As mentioned, I usually do the stuff Ali just showed you right now. I'm going to be doing something a bit different today. I want to touch on some of the challenges. I just want to do a quick screen share. You could just let me know when that's visible.
It is.
Got it.
Okay, great stuff. So I'm going to be touching on some of the challenges customers will probably be faced with when implementing an observability solution. As you've seen from some of the previous slides, networks are extremely complicated and complex, and many different layers, all components. These components generate vast amount of data, and this data needs to be stored somewhere. So databases, as we know, performance is key. Being your monitoring system is constantly, querying your database to provide alerts, reports, real-time dashboards, all of that. So with large and high-performing databases comes costs. So to keep them highly available needs maintenance. So that's on the data volume. In terms of data quality, we can see that not all data is created equally, whether it's, syslogs, traces, traps, Windows event logs. It'll all differ. In some cases, logs will need to be normalized so they are presented in a sort of standard format that's easily presented to the user. And we know certain devices like firewalls, VPNs, IDS systems generate tons of logs, and some of these are verbose and irrelevant to the monitoring. So we really need to hone in on the important logs and meaningful logs, and drop the rest. This also helps with database retention, where we don't have databases spiraling out of control. And the last point here is complexity. That goes without saying. The more layers we need information from, the more mechanisms and protocols are required to be able to, push and pull this information. It could be SNMP or flows on your network devices. Flows are quite intensive protocols. It could be WMI or agents for your Windows or Unix servers. It could be open telemetry connectors or SMIS for your storage devices. Each of them with their own challenges. So, for example, SNMP and flows is opening ports. Whether it be WMI, creating more overhead on your network. So these are all, considerations in terms of complexity. Just jumping onto the next one. So yeah, with all that being said, we can, however, highlight certain areas to focus on for a successful implementation of your observability platform. Bearing in mind, this is a journey. It's not going to be just installing a single piece of software and highlighting all your problems and everything's fixed. It's at least a few months in terms of a project. Training is key. Defining the scope is key. So I would say start off by assessing the infrastructure. How much of your environment is on-prem? How much is on cloud? It would make sense to deploy internally if a majority of your kit is on premise. If the reverse was true and you've got more workflows in Azure, it would be better to deploy in the cloud. If we look at Marketplace in Azure, it's just a few clicks to spin up a VM and deploy your HCO solution with the recommended specs, obviously, for your environment. And yeah, After that, all that's required is a VNet to connect to your devices on premise, so that you've got that sort of full visibility across both networks. Identify goals. Define specific measurable objectives aligned with the needs of the organization. It's important to get buy-in from all the teams, be it networks, systems, database storage. Teams need to trust the data that's coming out of your system. The outputs need to be meaningful, whether it's reports, alerts, dashboards, etc., and they need to provide value. And then obviously selecting tools and technologies. Again, this is because of the complexity. You don't want to be forced with tools sprawl, like Glenn mentioned earlier, where you've got 8 to 10 different tools performing different tasks. None of them really, talking to each other and bringing the data together. The aim here is a single pane of glass. Having the ability to pinpoint root causes within a few clicks, as Ali showed earlier on in the AppStack dashboard. Obviously clicking on one server and showing all the layers connected to it and easily seeing which is the problematic services there really helps. NetPath as well. That's the platform feature Ali showed earlier, where we can monitor source to destination traffic without the need of any agents. It's sort of got built-in technology to scrape the information off devices even outside of the network, which is really powerful. And then monitor and analyze performance. I mean, this is a continuous process, being able to identify trends, provide capacity planning insights, anomaly-based alerts. The typical old alert we used to get, like CPU hitting 80%, really means nothing. It means something if it's 80% over a sustained period of time, or if the alert is anomalous, as Glenn mentioned earlier. This is firing outside of the norm, which the system has built-in intelligence to be able to provide there. And then perf stacks also great. That's the graph which Ali showed earlier. Easy to create, share, collaborate between teams, and pinpoint issues. So we have good mean time to resolution there. So really great for troubleshooting. And yeah, I think that's it from me. I'll hand over to Glenn. I believe we have a short Q&A after this as well.
Great, thanks, Praneel. I think to me, what is clear is that we're really at a stage in our technology platforms where observability is a central component of what we do every single day. We cannot live without it. Observability is very complex to manage our fast and reliable systems. Yeah, there are challenges out there, but at the end of the day, one has to take a position. You have to start somewhere. You've got to be in a position to explore and make your enterprise visible. One of the things that Praneel always says is, if you can't see it, you can't monitor it. If you can't monitor it, you can't manage it. If you can't manage it, well, sorry guys, I think you're out of the game. It's important to have all three of those components involved all the time at every layer of what we're doing. And I think clear to us that the future of observability is very exciting. We're delivering some of the best tools in the marketplace, some of the most outstanding technology with machine learning and distributed tracing that will help us get even more value out of our observability data. So something very powerful. The power of observability is, as I mentioned earlier, configure, observe, analyze, predict, act, and remediate. And without having all those components together, there are blind spots. And we also do have a little ebook, which you're welcome to request, which is to identify where those blind spots are, and we can make that available to you. So I'm going to hand back to the coordinator, who will possibly see if there are any chats or questions that we have.
Hi, Glenn. Hi. I'm looking at the chat window right now, and there are no questions. So I'd like to encourage everyone on the call to put up some questions in the chat box. And but in the meantime, I have a few questions for the team here. And the first one I have is, can you provide some real-world examples of how observability has helped organizations improve their hybrid cloud management and operations? Do you have any case studies you can talk us through quickly?
Pranil, do you want to touch on that?
I think so. Traditionally the SolarWinds approach has been, individual licenses you would buy, like a network performance monitor, configuration manager, and across some organizations, especially financially, we were able to get full visibility across the entire stack in terms of, their configs, their servers, their cloud environment, all into one dashboard. And I think the best part of it, the licensing is so simple. It's basically node-based, where previously we were looking at elements, counting components for your server application. It's really a great time to be a SolarWinds customer because it's all of the technology from the last 10 years rolled into one in a simplified package that's just so easy to deploy.
Yeah, and I think adding to that, and I think Ali touched on it briefly as well. We have so many modules today. I think SolarWinds has in excess of 60 modules in the product range. But when you deep dive, well, like Ali showed, he was looking into a specific issue and he showed a config change that had taken place. Now, previously, if you didn't have the config manager, then you wouldn't see that the reason for that particular issue was as a result of a config change made by one of the engineers who configures the routers. Now, instantly, we were able to see exactly what the root cause of that problem was. It may have taken somebody 2 to 3 days to have found what caused that problem, because that change took place at 12 o'clock at night. They only started to experience the problem at work the next day when somebody started transacting at 9 o'clock. So everybody's looking for that problem at 9 a.m. Truth is, it took place yesterday at 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. when that change took place. And to find that people are going backwards and forwards, trying to isolate where those issues are. So we have real live cases, some in the medical environment, some in the beverage environment, where we're actually bringing in not just technical devices, but real-time devices. For example, in an operating theater, we can ensure that that operating room is running 24/7, that the theater, every device is online, and there's no downtime. These are life-saving situations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I can see there are no questions yet. So let's take another one. What are the key metrics that should be considered when implementing a hybrid cloud observability solution? Any one of you can take that.
You're on mute, Ali.
You're on mute.
Yeah, the question is about the key metrics, isn't it?
That should be considered when implementing a hybrid cloud observability solution. Or we could go with key factors to be considered.
Well, the first point is to have an observability strategy on the team. I mean, we don't, of course, jump in an observability journey without a strategy. And on that strategy, we have to note about all what is in infrastructure and to determine and define the elements and the information that we could use to feed the observability platform. So this is the first thing. And, an observability strategy have to be in phase with the infrastructure evolution, if I could say. So, for example, if the customer is planning to migrate, as the use case that I mentioned, to migrate some resources on the cloud, for example. So in this case, of course, the observability could be in phase with that strategy and really could be used to facilitate this digital transformation. So think about the digital transformation means that you think about the observability directly. Now, regarding the metrics, it's not about only metrics, because we're not in the observability platform is not interested only by metrics, but we feed it with, as Glenn explained it, with another data. For example, the alerts, the logs, whatever, the configuration, the human acts on an infrastructure in terms of configuration, for example, or issues resolution, if I could say. So the platform is interesting and will collect all of this. So it's not about only the issues, but also how we do to resolve the problems. So, and this is one of the definitions of the observability.
Okay. Would anyone like to add to that? Pranil?
I see another question in the chat. How does SolarWinds compare to Datadog in the Magic Quadrant? Glenn, you familiar with the quadrant?
Yeah, I think Datadog is definitely right up there in the Magic Quadrant. It's one of the leaders, but I think it's very focused, and I think what's key to the offering from SolarWinds' point of view is that it's much more enterprise driven, giving much more integration and pure observability, where we bring all the components together. I think I can't remember if it was in 21 or 22 where, I think in 21, SolarWinds was the challenger in that particular quadrant. And if we look at from an observability point of view, I'm seeing that in the coming period, we're going to be right up there once again, because we have now so much more intelligence, the AI and the machine learning, which is giving us that ability to show the metrics and have a full view and granular detail of all of it.
Yeah, I think previously NPM, or it's still currently number 1 in the network management space, number 3 in the server and application monitoring space, and certainly a challenger with HCO at this point in time.
Definitely. And just a final information as an add, regarding the observability, today we talk about the HCO platform, hybrid cloud observability. They have also another observability solution, which is a SaaS solution. The name of the solution is SWAO, and that's it. So with these two solutions, we are challengers, of course.
Okay, thank you. Please keep those questions coming. I think let's take one more, and this is about trends. So considering the evolving nature of hybrid cloud technologies, how do you see the future of observability in this context? Are there any emerging trends or technologies that will further enhance observability capabilities? So future trends around observability. Would like to take that, Glenn?
So I think as I mentioned when I started off, observability is most probably one of the most talked about trends that right now. But I think just as if we look at, let's say we look at ITSM, if we look at ITSM, there's a framework. And the framework for ITSM happens to be, what's the framework? It just slipped out of my mind for the moment. Whatever it is, right? But the framework is the means to the end. It's setting up the process to achieve the end goal. For me, the key here is observability is that process for us to make sure that we get ultimate visibility of the complete enterprise and not isolating individual components. For too long now, most probably if we go back a year or 2 years, security was not part of that observability platform. It was really just handled by a different department or a different, different stack of people focusing on that area. Today, there is no room to segregate any of this. It's one environment. We need to see how these components are interacting with each other. And to me, that is one of the big factors that we're going to be seeing going forward in observability. Closer integration, integrated and knitting, and the ability, as I also mentioned before, the fact that it's integrating with ITSM, then the technology, the framework was ITIL 4, which is what I was referring to. It couldn't come to mind, but while I was talking, it popped in. Those are the key things, is frameworks or guidelines. But if you focus too much on the guideline, you don't reach the goal. You've got to make sure that they are achievable. And observability can give you that vision to be able to achieve your goals while looking. And as Ali showed as well, I loved the fact that, we could just change to that graphic view, and all of a sudden, instead of me just looking at the nuts and bolts and statistics and figures, it was live. It was meaningful. And that's what it is. It's about meaningful visibility of what's going on in your environment.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. I can see there are no other questions, and we've just gone past 12 o'clock. So please give us your closing comments or thoughts on the topic of unlocking the power of hybrid cloud observability. So we can just go around the room, starting with Glenn and then Preneel and Ali.
For me, there are no alternatives today. We have to really deep dive into this. All enterprises need to get involved, need to make sure that we're covering end-to-end visibility. We need to make sure that the solution we choose provides the right solution for the right platform. Don't expect them, to deploy, as Ali mentioned, our SWO product, which is purely cloud observability. Don't deploy cloud observability on its own if you're only going to get there in 2 to 3 years' time. It's also vital to make sure that one analyzes where you are today to predict where you will be within the next 2 to 3 years. We have tools that can provide that, ensuring that there's a synchronized approach to migrating into the cloud and making sure that you perform that your enterprise performs accordingly.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Look, from my side, just glad to assist with any POCs in terms of network readiness. If you're looking to evaluate, we can assist, jump on a demo, any information needed regarding this, please reach out. Thanks.
Ali,
You're on mute, Ali.
Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes, as a final word, if I may, I just wanted to remind you that it's not about thinking about observability, because even if you maybe don't know the name, but you are already thinking about it. You're already thinking about how to resolve the proliferation of the tools on your infrastructure, how to make easier the life for your NOC or your support departments, etc., so on and so forth, and you are already on it. So now it's observability, and what we have covered today is an answer to maybe a question that you're already asking yourself about them. And just also to give you how the market is reacting regarding these new technologies that we're having now on the market, is that they're already mature about this, and you are already mature about this. I mean, even before talking about the observability, a lot of organizations were thinking about how to consolidate all the tools that we could have on their infrastructure. And sometimes we think about working with only one editor to, for example, I don't know, I don't want to give a real example, but to have only one constructor for all the elements and network elements, the system element that I could have. And that way I could have one observability tool to manage them and to observe them. The answer for SolarWinds said that we could do this even on an agnostic infrastructure, if I could say. So this is just a last word that I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So thanks, Glenn, Preneel, Ali, and thanks to the audience as well. And please reach out to Glenn or Preneel at ATS Network Management. If you have any questions about your cloud infrastructure or specifically about observability, and you will receive a survey after this session, and with details on how to get through to ATS Network Management. Thanks once again, and have a lovely day further. We'll be in touch very soon with regards to future events and any other developments around this event. But thank you. Have a great day further. Thanks, guys. Thanks to all the presenters. See you later. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you all, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.